Hello everyone, welcome back to the Fantasy Authority Gameday Show, your weekly Sunday show for all of your lineup advice, trade advice, any fantasy football advice that you are going to need. I am happy to introduce myself, Anthony Pinzone, but alongside me, a new cast of characters you may not have seen in a while. We have our boy Michael Stepney, #1 TFA fan over there. We got Kai joining us once again, and Jen Smith is back in the fold here to talk some football. She's decked out in Steelers gear, ready to go.
Hell yeah.
So how are we doing today, everyone?
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Not so good. I've got the same amount of catches as Jeremy Maclin today, so.
Okay.
That's what you get for starting him. You get what you sow.
It's a wonderful day, right? We got football in the morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, a little earlier for you guys who are in the western part of the states, but Jacksonville just absolutely handing it to Baltimore right now. They're up 30-0, and they are on the goal line.
And 37, 36.
Oh, so Michael's ahead of us in the video content
Yes, I
here.
am.
His internet's much faster, apparently. So Jacksonville's up 30.
I'm living in Baltimore, so I get the game live on TV.
Oh, you got the
That's
game
what it
live.
is.
That's what it is.
Yes.
So Michael's got it live. Jacksonville's up now 36-0, about to be 37-0. With a nice little pitch and catch to Mercedes Lewis, his third touchdown.
That helps no one.
Who started Mercedes Lewis today besides nobody?
Yes,
Man,
exactly.
3 touchdowns today. This is crazy.
Mm.
So Jacksonville very much enjoying playing in London right now, treating it as a home game. There's Jacksonville flags everywhere. It appears they handed them out when people were walking into the stadium because every time they show the audience or the stands, it's just people waving these Jacksonville flags. So that's been a fun game to watch despite the blowout, just because you don't really see Jacksonville play this well that often.
Except in London.
Except in London. That's the thing. All right, before we get into listener questions and all that, I want to talk about our injury updates. And if you are joining us, thank you very much. If you're saying to yourself, where's Kevin Steele? Well, that's a good question. I don't know either. I'm assuming he'll be joining us sometime today. So Kevin will be jumping in and joining us with his hot fire takes, as he likes to call them, at some point today.
Oh, I think he's determining whether he's going to do this with his pants on or off.
Oh, that's true. He is a very pants off kind of guy right now. He's all over. He's all over that.
Yeah.
With the Chiefs playing well and Kareem Hunt playing well and Josh Gordon possibly coming back, which we haven't heard on. We were expecting to by now, 3 days after, but nothing yet. So let's get into some injuries.
If Josh Gordon comes back, we're never going to hear the end of it from Kevin.
Listen,
ever.
I won't lie. I've stashed him in a
He's
few
been
spots.
stashing that guy for 3 years.
Yeah, he has. He hasn't left his bench. He drafted him in all leagues. You know. All right,
those are 10 seconds about Josh Gordon I will never get back, guys. That's 10 seconds of my life.
Listen, the Josh Gordon takes are the hottest here. So I'm going to read off a bunch of injury updates, and then we're going to talk about 3 in particular that I think are good to talk about for our listeners here today. First of all, Andrew Luck is still out. That's no surprise to anybody. Melvin Gordon, Jay Ajayi had both missed practice time this week, but they are both good to go. They are both expected to play. I did not realize this, but Rex Burkhead is actually out this week, so Mike Gillislee and James White getting a nice bump there. Rob Kelly not expected to play. That's a Sunday night game, so we don't have a definitive answer on that yet. Jordan Howard is expected to be back and be the lead back against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know a lot of people are still playing Cohen, though, because Howard has been so ineffective. As far as big-name wide receivers go, Odell Beckham Jr., Demaryius Thomas, Jordy Nelson, Amari Cooper, and Kelvin Benjamin have all been cleared to play. They're all expected to go this Sunday. Randall Cobb, not so lucky. He has been downgraded to doubtful. Jarvis Landry and Devontae Parker, despite questionable tags, are both very much expected to go in a plus matchup against the New York Jets. John Brown is out for a second week in a row, and J.J. Nelson is questionable, so if Nelson doesn't play, it looks like Fitzgerald and Jerron Brown are going to be the options to go to there.
Yes.
Marcus Wheaton is making his debut against his former team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it's going to be Kendall Wright and Marcus Wheaton lining up at wide receiver for Chicago Bears. I don't think anybody's touching that.
Don't do it. Don't do it, folks. Don't do it.
This Marcus Wheaton revenge game is upon.
Narrative Street is coming, baby.
7
Like
catches,
laughable
2
to wrap.
touchdowns. Here we go.
Listen, we're laughing right now, but Mercedes Lewis
We
has
should make
3
a bet.
touchdowns. I mean, just
We
saying.
should do something to make me suffer if Wheaton somehow has this monster day against the Steelers, because that would just be ridiculous and somebody should pay.
All right, by the end of the show, we have to come up with a punishment for Jen if Marcus Wheaton has a big game.
Just come up, just punish me. I don't know. Someone needs to go down if Marcus Wheaton is who we're looking at doing really well.
Oh man.
There's
Good news in New England, guys. Danny Amendola is back. Had a huge week 1 before going out with another injury. This is a guy who never stays healthy, so no surprise there. Corey Davis, the young rookie wide receiver down in Tennessee, is also out. And then some surprising news: Torrey Smith with Philadelphia is questionable with an illness that he came down with this week. So Nelson Aguilar's shares are just skyrocketing right now. Last one I want to mention before we get into the bigger ones: Tyler Eifert is also out this week. He's been an extreme disappointment, not even having a single fantasy point. Or no, I'm sorry, that's Jimmy Graham. But Eifert has still been disappointing this year. And luckily, you won't have to decide whether or not you start him because he's out, so you have to bench him.
Yeah, he's been ruled out since like Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, they were early. They jumped the gun on that.
Yeah.
Kevin Steele, welcome to the show, buddy. We're talking a little injury. He's just not paying attention yet, but we're talking a little injury news if you haven't caught up, and just covering a few of the latest injury updates. And we're going to talk 3 big ones here. Sam Bradford is out this week, guys. What's the effect on Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, Kyle Rudolph? Those are the 4 big fantasy names. I benched Diggs myself. What do you got? How are you handling this?
It's the same. I think all of them get downgraded. Just Case Keenum. We're talking about Case Keenum.
Yes, we are.
I mean, if you're playing, you have to play Rudolph, then you have to play Rudolph. If you look at him, maybe 6 to 7, 8 targets, 5, 6 grabs. That's reasonable.
Right. Yeah, Rudolph might be the guy to play. Dalvin Cook may get some good looks as the running back. He's not fully dependent on the quarterback, but still they can stack the box.
Yeah, I think they'll feed Cook either way. Whether they're ahead, behind, Case Keenum, Bradford, they're going to feed Cook no matter what because they know that's their best weapon. So.
Yeah, and the Bucs are down 2 D tackles because of the flu.
Wow, really? I did
That's
not
true.
catch
McCoy's
that.
going to be out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So Cook could be in a nice, sneaky spot.
That's good.
Yeah, I was actually thinking
there.
the same thing when I heard some of them were going to be out. I was actually a little bit higher on the Tampa Bay defense than some others this week, but then I heard that, and I think I'm basically back on the same page and thinking Cook could be – redraft, you're playing him, but Cook could be kind of a sneaky DFS play now that some of those guys are out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I have to make an adjustment to one of my rosters knowing that now because I do have Tampa starting this weekend. And I'm not so sure I want to do that if McCoy is out.
Ravens were one of...
Oh, thank you for auto-playing, Yahoo. That's friggin' awesome. Sorry.
I'm just glad when it's not me doing that shit.
I can't stand autoplay
Like,
video. That
oops.
drives me crazy. I didn't ask you to play this. All right. Anyways.
You got audio stuff. That's Anthony's fault. Always blame on him.
Luckily Kai has -4 points with that Baltimore defense start in our listener league. So I'm getting a little back here after he destroyed me with Sammy Watkins and Carlos Hyde playing. So Baltimore's giving me some points back.
Nice.
Gosh. This is going to be a tough one this week down in Tennessee. DeMarco Murray is actually expected to play after the entire week we were kind of going into it thinking he probably wasn't going to play. Derrick Henry lovers have already dialed him up, but what are you doing? DeMarco's the starter, right?
No.
No.
I'm not starting him.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of hamstring injuries, soft tissue, especially his age and just his ongoing struggles with this. I think you're so unsure with how many touches he's actually going to get that I would lean way more towards Derrick Henry this week. And if I had both of them, or if I was looking at Murray, I would definitely be looking at other options. I just wouldn't trust it.
Yeah, if you have
You could
both
easily
of them,
re-aggravate it within the first 5 minutes.
right? if you have both of them, I think, yeah, you play Henry and you sit Murray. But if you weren't smart enough to handcuff Henry, then you probably don't have better options than DeMarco Murray. He's probably your first or second running back. But so maybe you try to, start somebody else and flex with 3 wide receivers, something like that. 4 if your team already has 3 wide receivers in the starting spots. But, yeah, I think it's really hard to trust Murray this week. They could still use him on some passing downs and stuff like that. But, yeah, like Jen said, hamstrings have a way of cropping back up, so.
Right. And I think you look at the matchup and everybody sees Seattle still. And there's this idea with the defense that they think it's going to get shut down completely. People have actually been, Ty Montgomery, Carlos Hyde have been pretty successful in the running game versus Seattle. So I think that's probably where people are going to lean. So Derrick Henry's definitely got some opportunities today. So don't just shut him down and throw him on your bench because you see Seattle, like maybe you would have done last year. They're definitely struggling.
Right. Jen, I just saw your picture on Twitter of your setup right now, and that's actually more intense than my setup. So that's quite amazing.
It actually got more intense since I took that picture because now I have the laptop with the webcam here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 screens.
God.
I've got going.
I love it. It's fantastic.
I'll pass for listeners an updated picture right now. Live picture taking, folks.
Follow Jen at ff_female920 and check out this setup she's got going. It's intense. 4 screens.
Too intense. Can't handle. Too intense.
It's unbelievable. I think I should hand over the hosting to her. I mean, she seems better equipped for it at this point. I'm sitting here with my one screen, and I got like 75 tabs open.
Oh, jeez.
Wow. So, well, there's a lot to do.
I don't know
here,
if I trust me.
There's a lot of things open when you're live streaming, So, Jen, that's fantastic. I love it. So, I agree with you guys. I think Derrick Henry's probably the play here, even though I love DeMarco Murray, and it's really hard for me to bench him. But 1, he's been struggling, and 2, Derrick Henry looked really good last week. It wouldn't surprise me if they were like, hey, let's give DeMarco some rest and get Henry the ball a little more. And as you mentioned, Jen, Seattle been struggling against the run, so good call outs there.
Struggling in general, right? I mean, we're talking defense now, but offense is a whole other story.
Remember, guys, we are live on YouTube, so if you have questions for us, just type them in the chat on YouTube. And if you don't have the ability to do that right now for some reason, then hit us up on Twitter, #AskTFA, and we will be sure to help you out with your lineup questions or trade advice or whatever it is you need help with this morning. The last injury thing...
Anthony, sorry, before we moved on from that, somebody just tweeted Cohen or Derrick Henry. Wanted to see if people wanted to weigh in before we moved on who they'd rather play. I'd rather play Derrick Henry, but not sure whether people want to weigh in on that.
I mean, if it's a PPR, I like Cohen. That dude's been a part of that passing game, and they don't have anybody else to throw it to.
Start.
Yeah, I think you could just take the cop-out answer and say Tariq Cohen in a PPR, Henry in a standard. Here we go. There you go.
As cop-out as it may be, it's true.
Right?
No, it's Tariq Cohen in both. It's Tariq Cohen in both.
Hey, Kev.
Hey, finally, Kev
joined the show.
Kevin! There he is. Of course, he comes back to talk about my Steelers defense and that you should run on them. But they've been pretty successful, so I know, Watt's out and things, so...
They've also played the Browns and Case Keenum. So
that it has nothing to do with that. It's everything to do with that negative game script they're going to be in, and that they're going to have to pass the ball. Tariq Cohen is their best weapon they have. Tariq Cohen could easily see another 10 to 12 targets today. So you fire up Tariq Cohen everywhere that you have him. It doesn't matter if it's standard or PPR. And we have no clue what Derrick Henry's role is going to be. DeMarco Murray could easily come back and get 20 carries today. You're completely rolling the dice on Derrick Henry. Seattle's defense is still solid. Sheldon Richardson has been a beast for them. They've been hit up a little bit, but I'm not afraid of that. I still don't want nothing to do with playing anybody against Seattle's defense. So I'm not playing Derrick Henry anywhere. It's way too volatile a situation. We know Tariq Cohen's role.
Tariq Cohen's not volatile, but Derrick Henry is? That's ridiculous. Come on.
Tariq Cohen has been their best back. It's not even. He's
that
the number
doesn't
one.
mean he's going to get the work though. Right, Okay, so Derrick Henry has been their best back, so that's a weak
Except
argument.
for what?
You gotta come up with more
For
than
what?
that.
Since when?
For 1 week. All right, so Cohen's been the best back for 2 weeks. Henry's been the best back for 1 week.
The best back for what? In what context?
Cohen wasn't
for
anybody's
Tennessee?
best back getting 4 points last week. Sorry, he wasn't anybody's best back. So
Tariq Cohen.
game script though, couldn't you say the same thing that you just said, right? Seattle might struggle in the past, just like they have been, because their offensive line sucks. So what? Maybe they run heavy; they're a little bit more successful. Why wouldn't Derrick Henry do the same thing?
Because there's no idea of how much
Same game
he's going
script.
to get. Because there's no idea how much work he's going to get.
But you don't really have an idea how much work Cohen's going to get either. I mean, Jordan Howard's back. Cohen had 15 touches last week. It's not like he was running away with it. Derrick Henry had, 19 touches? So,
With DeMarco Murray sideline.
okay. But still, Jordan Howard is back. And Jordan Howard was
But
sidelined
Jordan
back
Howard
week.
isn't a factor in this.
week.
I don't factor in Jordan Howard. I
Well,
haven't all year. Like
You
there's
have to
there's no
factor
reason
him
to
in.
factor
You have
Jordan
to.
Howard.
He's going to get touches. You can't just say, oh, Jordan Howard's playing trash. He's not going to do anything. Start Cohen.
They're playing the Steelers. They're going to be behind. So they're going to have to pass the football. And that means Jordan Howard will not be on the football field. Tariq Cohen will. We know that for a fact.
Well, damn. Ravens, good Lord.
Listen, I understand being bullish on Cohen. I really like Cohen this week, but to come in here and say that Henry has no value and Cohen has all the value
I
is
didn't
pretty
say
ridiculous.
he had no value. I said in that scenario, it's Tariq Cohen all day.
I think there's still consideration there, but we have to move on. We have a Jordan Reed injury that we don't know the status on at this point. He is questionable, and he's a game-time decision, which would be wonderful if they played at 1 o'clock, but they don't. They play at Sunday night. Something I've done as kind of a backup plan is I've picked up Jason Witten, who plays on Monday night. So Jason Witten is the leading tight end in most leagues at this point. He's not exciting. Vernon Davis may be a little more exciting if you wanted to go that route. But for me, I like the floor of Jason Witten, so I went with him. He's my backup plan. What are you guys doing if you're a Reed owner or 4 Reed owners going into the Sunday night matchup?
They've already said they don't expect Jordan Reed to play, so it's Vernon Davis, and Vernon Davis is in an absolute smash spot this week. So I would be picking up Vernon Davis everywhere, and I would start him over a lot. I have him as a tight end 1 this week, so already. So, and he's going to be available everywhere. So I think it's Vernon Davis is an easy call. And we know the Raiders are terrible against tight end. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Vernon Davis is the play this week. I'm playing him everywhere.
Agreed.
Where are you getting that the Raiders are horrible against the tight end?
I mean, they were last year.
Historically.
Just historically, not this year.
Well, historically, and then Adam Harstead for I believe put out really good information about that through the first 4 to 6 weeks that you should always go off of last year's until that's when things actually stabilize. So that's where I get that.
I mean,
but still, Vernon Davis is a.
You have to, and you also have to take consideration the Raiders played the Jets last week, who have no tight end, and then
That's true. That's true.
So the numbers are skewed there.
Well,
They do now, baby.
They let up.
Austin Perry Jenkins.
They held Delaney Walker to 76 yards, which in tight ends, right? It's hard to get pretty good points. 7 points with that might be decent, but right, Delaney Walker pretty solid tight end. So I don't know if I would trust Vernon Davis as much as Kevin is on that train and tooting out of the station.
Yeah, I'm still sticking with Witten. I'm still sticking with Witten personally. I want to see what he can do.
Davis. Whew, I would take that all day.
Yeah, I think you could start Vernon Davis. He's had a pretty safe target floor when Reed has been out last year. So if you need to pivot to Vernon Davis, I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. But I have Jordan Reed in the league, and I picked up Austin Seferian-Jenkins on waivers before this week started. Top 5 tight end. The Dolphins got 8 up last week by the Chargers tight ends. They were bottom 5 against the tight end last year. And Mike Kev said we should look at last year a little more early on in the season. So, yeah, I'm rolling with Austin Seferian-Jenkins, baby. ASJ, let's go.
Dolphins are pretty awful against the the tight end. We don't have any linebackers. We did trade for Stephon Anthony, but I don't know that he's actually going to be ready to play this week. So there's that. I'm really kind of hoping they pick up Jelani Jenkins. I don't know what the situation is there, but
Yeah, you don't want Stephon Anthony to cover anybody.
no, you don't. He's more of a pass rusher, I think. So
Yeah.
that's fine. But we have Mike Hull starting at middle linebacker. We need something. This guy was on a practice squad 2 weeks ago.
He wouldn't start for the Colts. That's sad.
We do have our first listener question coming in over on YouTube from Andrew Hankins. He says, Tariq Cohen, Samaje Perine, or Jermaine Kearse in a flex spot in a PPR league.
Ooh.
Tariq
PPR
Cohen.
has me leaning towards Kearse. Yeah, I know Kevin's going to say Cohen. I just like that there's just a massive floor for Kearse. I don't expect the Jets to do anything but play from behind again against Anthony's Dolphins. And Kearse is just about the only where Robbie Anderson's a little banged up and he's seen, a fair amount of targets, but Kearse is like their only option in the passing game outside of ASJ and the running backs. So yeah, you like the floor with Kearse.
Anybody else? Kearse and log out.
No, it's Tariq Cohen. I already said it.
No, yeah. I think if you're looking more for upside, then maybe Cohen. But yeah, I would be fine starting Kearse.
Yeah, I'm going Cohen. Better chance of a higher ceiling.
And I hate when everybody's high on one player. That means he's going to have 3 yards and 2 fumbles. And, we're all going to be crying. It's going to be this Buck Allen situation all over again that we're looking at right now with Baltimore.
That's all right. I'll be low on Cohen this week so that you guys can start him.
Add some balance. Kai's adding balance to the show. Jen, what do you think? You think it's Cohen as well?
Yeah, I mean, in that particular scenario, it's not that I'm against Cohen. I just was arguing other points. So, yeah, I mean, I think Cohen could have a good game. I'm not like all in it and all excited and things like maybe some others, but I think he'll have a decent game.
It's really tough between Cohen and Kearse for me because I agree with Kai that Kearse against Miami's defense, I mean, he had 2 touchdowns last week, and it's hard to predict touchdowns, but I could see another one this week. The secondary's not very good down there. Pittsburgh's defense hasn't been playing great either, and Kev said, that Cohen has a good game script this week. It's hard to sit him. I'd probably lean Tariq Cohen. Running backs tend to get involved a little bit more than a wide receiver, so I'm going to go with Cohen as well. Machine, welcome back, buddy. He says Giants defense or Texans defense. A defense question already, 20 minutes into the show. Machine, you're killing us, buddy.
Wow.
Who was he asking about? Which 2?
Giants or Texans?
Giants or Texans. Yep.
Giants or Texans. Whew. Boy.
The answer is actually secret option number 3. Take a 0 this week and bench both of them. I see plenty of ways that both those defenses could get negative.
I'm looking at some low ownership defenses now. That person.
Yeah, maybe drop the Giants and
That's
pick
what I'm
somebody
doing.
up.
That is what I'm doing. I'm like, okay.
Actually may
who's
stick with
low
Tampa.
ownership here? That's a good streamer.
Who's playing
The
Cleveland?
Titans could actually be in a good spot this week. I know they talked about them on the DJ Nation pod this week. Like Jim was saying earlier, the Seattle offensive line has looked terrible every single week. I think they could pressure Russell Wilson. Maybe not get some turnovers, but definitely some sacks. And I don't expect Seattle to score a whole bunch this week.
Okay, that's a nice secret option number 3.
Yeah. Believe it or not, Miami defense is at 42%. I know that's still pretty high, but over half of Yahoo leagues, Miami defense versus the New York Jets this week is still available. Hey,
playing the Jets.
go to your waiver.
Jeez, they should be more owned than that if they're playing the Jets.
Hi-oh.
They should be.
Snag him. Yeah, snag the Miami. Yeah.
And watch the Jets put like 28 points.
Stop it. Don't wish that upon them. That's ridiculous. Oh, man. Oh, gosh. So what other games are we looking at? We don't have any more questions right now, so we'll just kind of start getting into the matchups of this week. What matchups are you guys most excited for here in the week 3 as far as, fantasy standpoint, obviously?
I think the big one is Atlanta and Detroit. I think it's is Detroit really for real? This is their big chance to show it against the defending NFC champs, and how the Detroit offense is gonna attack the Atlanta defense. Probably using a lot of the running backs out of the backfield, since Atlanta's been just piss poor, giving up receptions to running backs last year in the first 2 games of this year. So Abdullah is going to be in play. Riddick is going to be in play. Probably use a shorter passing game that they always have. I think Stafford's in a great spot. Maybe a sneaky one could be Kenny Galladay. Of course, it all depends on where Atlanta puts Desmond Trufant. But Trufant could be covering Tate in the slot or Melvin Jones on the outside. That leaves Galladay against like a third corner.
Yeah, I think the Falcons in the past have had their corners stick to their sides. Played more of that Seattle style where Trufant stays on his side. But I like the call. Lots of lines you can start here. Lots of Falcons. This should be the highest scoring game for the week. Maybe over under, maybe fantasy too. But I want to pivot off this to a question for you guys: Abdullah or Tyrell Williams?
Oh gosh.
What's the scoring?
Standard league. And Tyrell Williams is going against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I know Kevin likes, wide receivers against the Chiefs, but yeah, Abdullah, a lot of pass catching, running backs have done well. Like Mike said, against the Falcons, but then Theo Riddick cutting into that time. So what do you guys think?
I think I would stick with Abdullah. I always like the guy who's going to touch the ball more.
Yeah.
I
think I would go Abdullah too.
I agree. I like Abdullah this week, although I do like T. Williams off, if they can shut down Keenan Allen, he could have a good game. But in this scenario, I think, Abdullah is just going to have more opportunity. Even if Riddick's there and catching some passes, I think Abdullah's going to have a good game today.
Plain sweet for Abdullah. Listen, I just did that draft.com draft, right? And I am not feeling good about this team. Not at all. So it's going to put it away. Like Jen says, just click the button and walk away. I'm turning the phone over and I'm walking away. Because
Do you need some deep breathing?
I need deep breathing because I'm not feeling good about it.
Calm it down. Press the
Woosah.
I'm going to get kicked out of this tournament. I see it happening.
exit.
Okay, Post Relax has a question. On YouTube. Thank you, Jen, for the relaxation techniques. I appreciate it. He says it wasn't smart to start Buck Allen and Jeremy Maclin. And Post, I think that's a question we're all asking ourselves right now as people who all started Buck Allen or Jeremy Maclin, with the exception of maybe Stepney over there because he's a genius. But
had enough sense to start knowing on the Ravens offense. The Ravens offense is.
I knew Jacksonville's defense was good, but 44-0 shutout good. I did not anticipate that.
I think no one did.
Yeah. Kai, Jen, how are you guys feeling about your Buck Allen, Jeremy Maclin starts right now? Would you do it again going into these games with no knowledge of the situation?
I mean, maybe I would think twice, maybe about playing receivers against the Jags in London, but that happens once a year, so not much I can do about it.
I'd say no. I mean, if I didn't have knowledge of what was going to happen, I thought West banged up. Buck had the majority of the snaps last game. I really don't. I'm kind of at a loss for, was there something, did he get dinged up? And, I just don't get it. I don't get it right now. Macklin, I benched in all my leagues. So I was not high on Macklin as it was. I was just a Buck. I thought the running game, I thought they rely on him, dump off passes and things like that, especially if the field started to give out.
I think in the beginning of the game, we did see that, right? But as he wasn't very good, so I think they pulled him for West. I think that's really, I'm not sure the mystery goes beyond that. I think he was ineffective, and they pulled him for West.
I mean, Buck Allen didn't get any game action until like the second quarter.
Well, they didn't even have a completion until the second quarter.
There you go.
So
there you go.
It was. This has been all Jacksonville the whole game. So to me, I was okay with starting Buck Allen. Macklin against Jalen Ramsey and AJ Bouye, probably not a great start there. But would you have had anybody else? That's the question. It depends how your bench looks, really. Yeah,
exactly. And who you get off the waiver wire.
Right. He does have another question for us. Emmanuel Sanders or Alshon Jeffrey post. Is this a PPR or a standard league? Or does it matter, guys?
Doesn't matter. All depends on if Janoris Jenkins starts or not. If he doesn't start, I want Alshon. If he starts, I want all Sanders.
Sorry, what were you saying, Kai?
I was just saying, Janoris Jenkins is going to play today.
Then I want all Manny Sanders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Emmanuel.
I know that's Kev's boy, Alshon Jeffrey, but he's still pretty quiet over there.
Giants defense hasn't been great.
Right? Sanders today.
Wow, what's that? Somebody's got like a monster truck driving past their house, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he just whizzed right on by.
Yeah. Emmanuel Sanders is going against the Bills in Buffalo. Alshon Jeffrey going against the New York Giants in Philadelphia. Man, that's a tough one. I'd probably lean Emmanuel anyways, but I do think I like Alshon even with Janoris coming back, especially if Torrey Smith doesn't play.
It's Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah.
Oh. Kev's willing to bench Alshon Jeffrey. I have not heard that before.
Kev's having a very exciting morning. It's just solid statements of who it is and move on.
And log out. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm just tilting on all my Ricardo Lewis shares that I have this week.
Oh, no. Get angry, you guys. You DFS guys get so angry.
Well, hey, they haven't even played yet. It's just, I know
that, and that's the beauty of it. They get angry before they even play. Like I get angry while they're playing, but
Well, I'm playing about $600 this week, so yeah, it gets a little serious.
Well, that's by choice. Nobody's holding a gun to your head, right?
Well, you got to win that money.
Whatever floats your boat, there, buddy.
On the advice of the DJ Nation podcast, you guys should listen every Friday. It comes out every Friday.
Yeah, I believe Friday.
This is one of my lineups I'm playing today. Jacoby Brissett in at quarterback. Lamar Miller, Chris Thompson at running back. Got Brandon Coleman, Brandon LaFell, and Ricardo Lewis at wide receiver. Jack Doyle in the tight end, of course. The Titans defense, and then AJ Green, because you have to put AJ Green in when you still have 10,000 left. So I like that lineup. I think it's pretty good.
That could just if you win all the money, I want you to screenshot that and send it to us.
He's gonna win it all with Jacoby Brissett.
Yes.
Listen, I just take the advice that the DJ Nation puts out, and I don't question it, dude. I just shove them in my lineup and click submit, dude.
That's the way to go.
It's Ricardo Lewis smash week. It's all good.
Yeah, of course. You got to outscore AJ Green.
I don't know about that, but
We do have another question in from Post in a standard league. Matt Ryan or Alex Smith? I don't think this seems like much of a question to me. It's Matt Ryan for me. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's Matt Ryan.
Yes, Matt Ryan.
It's Matt Ryan.
Everybody on board the Matt Ryan train now. Heading back to the YouTube, Winston or Carr? Jameis Winston or Derek Carr? Not David Carr. He's no longer in the league.
Carr isn't close.
In case you're
Yes,
wondering.
Derek.
Yeah.
You guys like
Carr,
Derek?
11 times out of 10.
11. Well, those are good odds. Those are good odds. One coming through on Twitter from Alexander Katz. Golden Tate, Terrell Pryor, or Chris Hogan. It's a half-point PPR.
Could you say that again, Anthony?
Golden Tate, Terrell Pryor, or Chris Hogan in a half-point PPR.
The half PPR has me leaning between Tate and Pryor.
I think I went Pryor.
If they were standard, I would just say Pryor easy, but yeah, I think I still lean Pryor. That Raiders defense is just pretty vulnerable in the back end. Pryor's at home on Sunday night.
And the big game is eventually going to happen. You just want to be out front when it does happen. You don't want to have Pryor explode on your bench like 25 points. He's saying, "God damn it! I should have put him in that Sunday night. Put him in the flex. Had that Sunday night hammer."
Could be worse. You could be playing Jacoby Brissett.
It could be worse. Jacoby Brissett could be starting for your team.
Oh, that's true. Well, yeah.
Real
he says wearing the Indianapolis Colts hat.
It could be even worse
Anthony's
than that.
new
Scott
podcast.
Tolzien could be starting for your favorite team.
Oh, man.
Anthony's new podcast title is "It Could Be Worse."
It could be worse.
It could be worse.
That's all you need. It could be
Shrug,
worse.
shrug emoji.
Actually, that's not a bad title. It's like,
I don't even remember what the answer was to this question. Did you say Pryor, Mike?
yes.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
I was
Pryor.
at Pryor.
Did everybody go Pryor?
I would want to know why you can't start both.
We didn't do the roundtable.
I don't know. I can ask him why he can't start both, but if you had to pick one between Tate, Pryor, and Hogan, I'm not crazy about Tate.
Hogan, you're just not sure if he's going to get enough volume. Just not sure of the Patriots.
Yeah.
It's like hot luck. Like, blindfold throwing a dart. It's like this week, Hogan. Next week, Cooks.
True.
Next week, Amendola.
It's never Cooks. It's never Cooks. So the shit on fantasy football universe, they'll never make it Cooks.
Okay.
And this is the best defense the Patriots have played so far as well. So
Going against Houston, yep. Tate against Atlanta is tempting, but I think I'm going to lean with you, Mike. I think I'm going to go with Pryor here.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with no Jordan Reed.
Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
Good call. Do you like the Dolphins defense today? We talked a little bit about that before post when we were answering the Giants D or Texans D. Dolphins could be a solid option today going against New York Jets. You know, that offense is abysmal. There's no way around it.
Yeah, but the front seven's got to dominate. That
Right.
Dolphins back end. Eesh. Oof.
Dolphins back end is young and growing. Like I have hope for them in the future, but right now they're very prone to rookie mistakes, and they lost a few players already. Lippett was their most improved defensive back last week. He's on IR. You know, it's not a good situation for them.
Yeah, Dolphins are a solid play. You know,
Can't wait to get TJ.
get 10, 11, 12 points from them, you'll take it.
I would take 10.
Anything
I'd
more
take
than that is a
8.
bonus.
I would take 8 at this point. LA Rams killed me on Thursday. Killed me.
Yeah, I had the Rams on several leagues, and I got rid of them like Thursday night before the game started.
Michael Stepney's telling the future. He knows the fantasy football future.
I just had a bad feel. I had a bad feeling about that game.
We got to talk to Mike before we make any lineup decisions. I definitely started Rams defense against Brian Hoyer.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Absolutely. Michael Stepney is the go-to guy for fantasy football advice right now.
Don't start with that.
Just chime in. If you're thinking to yourself, Michael Stepney or ESPN, it's Michael Stepney every time, right? Mike, I'm gonna get you a cult following, buddy.
oh, you're right. That's what I need. That's what I need now. A cult following.
Yeah, that's what you need. You never know. You could have fun with it.
We got another question, Anthony.
Go for it.
Witten or Jeffrey in a flex?
I do love Witten, but I'd probably go with Jeffrey. Giants defense has been awful, and I know they just got Jenkins back. That's a big deal. I don't want to play it off like it's not a big deal. Janoris Jenkins is their best corner by a long shot. Yeah, Jason Witten. Talk about volatile. I mean, this guy, he'll probably get 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row of scoring multiple touchdowns, and then he'll have 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row of scoring nothing. So it's a tough. I'm gonna lean Jeffrey on this.
No, in that case, you just ride a Witten train until it slows down.
That's true.
Because it's going to slow down.
I am starting him.
You just ride it out.
I'm starting him over Jeffrey.
It's...
That's a tough sell, man, starting Witten over Jeffrey.
I mean, I'm not saying 9 targets first week, 13 targets second week. I don't know.
Yeah.
This could be the week Witten doesn't get those, but so far, when Dak's struggling,
he is getting them. So it's a 2-game sample. If they go by a 2-game sample, Witten is getting shitload of targets.
I did not expect the answer here to be Witten. I'll tell you that.
I don't think any of us did, Anthony. Let's start with you didn't expect that either.
Worth noting, Terrence Williams is still banged up. Going to be a game time decision tomorrow. So that could be even more targets for Witten if he's limited or out.
Yeah, I was about to mention that, the Terrence Williams thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm overthinking.
And my boy Jack Doyle.
The ever unreliable Terrence Williams.
Terrence Williams is just a forever hopeful.
And you're still hopeful.
If you've been hopeful before, this is the week you stay hopeful.
Yeah.
Okay? If you have played him,
yeah.
him this week, do not jump off that train this week if you're going to jump off the train. You stay on there one more week. Do it.
What do you think, Kev?
I think I would go. I would go Alshon Jeffrey. Jason Witten is going to be matched up against Tyrann Mathieu. They'll just likely put Patrick Peterson to shadow coverage. Dez.
Yeah.
So I think the rest of the attention is going to go to Jason Witten with Tyrann Mathieu, and so I don't feel fantastic about Jason Witten this week. And I think you also expect for the Cowboys to get Ezekiel Elliott going as well. So I think this could be much more low scoring, and I think this is I don't think this is a great matchup for Jason Witten. So I think I would go Alshon Jeffrey, who also doesn't have a great matchup, but I just think he has a little bit. I think he has a little bit higher ceiling than what Jason Witten does.
PFF's got Cromartie on Aguilar and Jenkins on Jeffrey. That's what they've got.
I need like a shocked soundbite because if Kevin would have said Witten there, I would have needed to play something to express what I was feeling at that given time. It would have had to have been something just shocking, like a scream or something like that. I just need a soundbite for when something totally shocking happens. You went with Jeffrey though, so we're safe. We're safe.
Yeah.
Listen, somebody just had a big run for Baltimore, and it wasn't Buck Allen or Terrence West. So
it's Alex Collins. Alex Collins has been ripping them apart. 9 carries, 82 yards already.
Dang it! We mentioned him a few weeks ago on the pod. We did.
Listen,
all the backups in for the Ravens.
Read my week 3 hot takes, and you'd know. Start Alex Collins this week.
Play all hot takes, man.
Yeah.
Okay, I said he would get 2 touchdowns, not 80 yards, but John Harbaugh was talking him up this week, said he played well last week, and he fumbled last week.
Garbage touchdown.
Who got the touchdown?
Ben Watson, the garbage touchdown.
A lot of people probably started him this week based on last week's performance, though, so that helps a lot of people probably.
Yeah.
The Ravens' leading receiver has
touchdown.
The Ravens' leading receiver has 2 catches for 14 yards, and their leading passer has 36 yards.
Actually, the leading receiver has been Watson with 3.
Yeah, they haven't updated yet with the
11 yards. A touchdown.
You know who's taking down DFS this week? The guy who had not enough money for any other tight end other than Mercedes Lewis. That's the guy taking down DFS this week. He's like, I got no money.
Tight ends, I definitely would have played above Mercedes Lewis, to be honest.
He's like, I got no money. I'm starting Mercedes Lewis.
There are
kind of should have been your hot take.
Tight ends.
Kind of should have been hot take.
Yeah, Kai, where's your hot take on that?
Mercedes Lewis.
Next week, 3 touchdowns. Mercedes Lewis. Let's go.
Oh, shit.
Back to back, three touchdown weeks.
Back to back. A hat trick.
Gosh. Do we like Jonathan Stewart this week? Who's he playing?
Saints. Playing the Saints.
Yeah, he's playing the Saints, so you start him.
Listen, I'm still starting Cam, but I feel
he's probably going to get at least 1 touchdown. But CMC is who you want from there. But yeah, Stewart's probably going to get Vulture at least 1.
Yeah, J. Stu will probably score. You're right.
Yeah, if they have New Orleans next to their opponent, yeah, you can start anybody, and I'd be fine with that.
You can start even Ed Dixon.
You can start Russell Shepard, Devin Funches.
They're all startable.
Fozzie Whitaker, you could start him. He's had, I think, less than 5 touches this season so far. But yeah, you could start him. He's playing the Saints.
I can tell you I'm a little worried about Cam Newton this week. He's banged up hardcore. I think he's got, a shoulder and an ankle or something like that. So he's not fully healthy. It's a game where everybody expects him to dominate. I'm a little worried about it. I'm a little worried about Cam.
But he's playing the Saints.
I know it's the Saints, but they're still an NFL team, even if their defense plays like Pee Wee.
Hashtag
we had gone to kindergarten time.
Hashtag Pee Wee D. Man.
PP.
Hashtag
I'm a little worried about it. I am. I'm still starting him. I'm still playing him, but I'm a little worried about him.
I forgot who it was, but on Twitter this week, somebody posted a Photoshop of it had, the Wizard of Oz, the Cowardly Lion, if I only had some courage, the Scarecrow, if I only had a brain, Tin Man, if I only had a heart. And right next to him, instead of Dorothy, it's Drew Brees, if I only had a defense.
It's so true.
Yes.
So true. We had a question a few hours ago, actually, from Yuan Zhu on the Ask TFA hashtag over on Twitter. He's starting Hopkins, but needs to know if he should start Martavis Bryant or Emmanuel Sanders. That's a good one because these guys are silent.
That's good, but I think on the road with Big Ben as your quarterback, I think that's the tiebreaker for me. I would do Sanders.
I agree with you, Kai.
Yeah, Bryant is way too touchdown dependent to be put in your lineup.
I'm sorry, Kai said Sanders. I was leaning Bryant. I'm sorry. Way to pay attention. Way to pay attention. I'm really listening here. I got my listening headphones on.
Now you're signed to listening.
I just started right now.
But yeah, no. If you read my week 3 hot takes this week, I said Big Ben will have less than 8 points total. They struggle on the road. The Bears defense is way better than people give it credit for. Last week, the only 2 touchdowns they gave up were on short fields after Mike Glennon turnovers. Other than that, they held the Bucs to field goals the whole time. And based on last week, they did a great job against the Falcons in week 1. Big Ben on the road is well documented, 10 points less on average on the road last year, the year before, and the year before that. 10 points less on average. Last year, he had 4 games where he had less than 8 points on the road. And he only put up 15 on the Browns this year on the road. So, anybody catch it. I mean, you start Antonio Brown, obviously. but anybody catching passes from Roethlisberger on the road against like a semi-good defense, I got to lean Sanders.
So not a Pee-wee defense.
No.
It's got to
Not
be
a Pee-wee defense.
high school at
Hashtag
least.
not a Pee-wee defense.
Okay. Mike, you said
This
you were
little
At
leaning
least
towards
junior high. At least junior high.
Junior high.
Mike, you said you were leaning towards Sanders as well. How about Kev and Jen? Are you guys leaning towards Bryant or Sanders?
Makes me
It's
sad.
Marte. I like Martavis Bryant.
Jen, you're the tiebreaker.
Come on, Steeler fan.
I think you look at it like this: that if the Bears come out and do what they did week one, what they typically do with Fangio as there was a coordinator, where they try to lock down the star, double, triple team him, whatever they have to do against Antonio Brown, then I think that's going to leave Martavis Bryant to be able to eat against that secondary that they have. Their secondary is not great by any stretch of the imagination, so I think this is a great spot for Martavis Bryant. Especially if they decide to try to limit or take away Antonio Brown, then I think it's just another smash spot for Martavis Bryant to do similar to what he did last week. So I that's who I would go with. And as far as Sanders goes, I think that I actually like Demaryius Thomas more this week than Emmanuel Sanders. I will say this: the Bills defense that looks like they may be a top 5 defense this year. So really, just expecting that. The Broncos are going to travel to Buffalo and do what they did against the Cowboys, I think is a little bit foolhardy in my opinion. I don't think people are giving the Bills defense enough credit for as well as they've played. So for me, I just think matchups better, and I think that the game script could go more in favor of Martavis Bryant.
I mean, one of the Bills' wins was against the Jets, so.
Yeah, I think the Bills are getting much better. They played the Jets, and last week the Panthers have, struggled to get it going all season long. Newton was banged up last week, and they lost Greg Olsen. I'm not scared of the Bills' defense. I don't think the Broncos are going to put up 42 points on them, but I wouldn't be scared of starting Sanders or C.J. Anderson or Simeon or Demaryius Thomas.
Anthony, did you say this PPR or is it standard? Sorry, I missed
PPR.
it.
Yep, PPR.
It's PPR?
Yep.
Oh, that makes it even more Sanders for me.
Yeah.
The deciding factor can't decide.
Yeah, it's hard. I wish that, like last week, Mike Evans was able to have some success, with Chicago, and Djax, who is kind of, I think Bryant is better than him, but they're their deep threat. And so the fact that they shut him down is making me a little bit nervous. I don't really know as far as, like Kev was saying, is Chicago just a better defense than people are giving them credit for, or will they go off? I actually think that's a good game for Bell to get back on track and them giving him the ball a lot more. I think this time, because it's PPR, it's Sanders for me by a hair. I mean, I just have him really close in my rankings, and it's hard for me to go against my team.
That's why I said that it's going to depend on what they did, because last week they didn't do that. Last week they did not roll the coverage, and they allowed single coverage for Mike Evans, and of course Mike Evans went for 90 yards and a touchdown. So you have to figure they're probably going to try to get back to that going against Antonio Brown. They're not going to allow Antonio Brown single coverage. So if they do what the Bears typically do, and like I said, and that is, they have no fears of triple teaming a star wide receiver. If that's what they do, similar to what they did to Julio Jones week 1, then I think that's why that Martavis Bryant is just an absolute smash spot and easily could go for 100 yards and a touchdown this week. So
you think they're gonna switch their coverage and try and just shut Antonio Brown, do everything they possibly can to shut him down?
Right.
All right.
That's fair.
I think solid arguments for both sides on that one. I think you can probably make a decision from what we were saying, what we were pitching, and our analysis on that. We do have another question from Post Relax here on YouTube. He needs a flex spot. He asked us a few questions about Jonathan Stewart, Jason Witten, Alshon Jeffrey at this point. So now he's going to throw them all together. Jason Witten, Alshon Jeffrey, Jonathan Stewart, or J.J. Nelson in a flex spot here.
Number
Ricardo Lewis.
Yeah. No J.J. Nelson. Lewis. Ricardo Lewis.
Ricardo Lewis.
He doesn't have Ricardo Lewis. He didn't spend enough fab, man.
I'm sure he's out there. I'm sure he's available in 99.9% of leagues, but he's not going to be after this week. He's going to be at the top of my waiver ads this week. Will you watch?
No, I don't doubt it. Like I said, I put him in some DK lineups because you guys said so.
One catch for 17 yards. Here we go, Ricardo. So Jonathan Stewart, Jason Witten, Alshon Jeffrey, J.J. Nelson. Apparently, Ricardo Lewis is part of this too. Suddenly.
Number one, no J.J. Nelson. Cross him off the list.
Off the list.
Why are we crossing him off the list?
Because he hasn't been barely practicing all week with a hamstring injury.
Yeah, I don't think he might not play.
I would venture to wonder if Jerron Brown is available, because if he is, that's what I would do. I would go J.J. Nelson, and then if J.J. Nelson does not play, then I would pick up Jerron Brown and play him.
I have J.J. Nelson in about four leagues, and I'm benching him everywhere. Another week 3 hot take from this week. Larry Fitzgerald's going to be the PPR wide receiver 1. You can book it. The Cowboys cannot cover short. They are the number 1 from what is it? Football Outsiders has them number 1 DVOA against deep balls. So guys like J.J. Nelson, Jerron Brown, John Brown, if he was playing, I think they'll lean on Fitzgerald and the running backs way more. The Cowboys cannot cover short passes. And that's part of the Rod Marinelli scheme is they don't give up stuff over the top. They just allow chunk play after chunk play after chunk play. And so, yeah, I definitely have that decision in a lot of leagues, and J.J. Nelson is warming up the bench. And like Mike said, with the hamstring injury, he's still, banged up, might not play. So, yeah.
This is another one of those cases, though, you should go back and look to see how they did last year, because they played the Giants, and the Giants in week 1, the Cowboys, and they were absolutely, obviously we know the Giants are absolutely horrendous. So it sort of skews numbers in that way. Plus, if J.J. Nelson plays, then it's not like they're just chucking the ball down to him 30 yards down the field at every play. They use him all over the field. He gets, he runs a full route tree. So that doesn't worry me. He's not just simply a deep threat. He's somebody who's proven that he can be, a nuanced route runner, and he has the rapport with Carson Palmer. So I like J.J. Nelson more than all of them that you mentioned. And like I said, if Jerron Brown's available. Now, if Jerron Brown's not, then I would maybe go a different direction, because it's not a guarantee that he plays. But that's the way that I would go. I would pick up Jerron Brown and then smash J.J. Nelson into the lineup. And if he doesn't play, then you have Jerron Brown you can fall back on.
No, yeah, and I'm not saying
more difficult.
Oh, sorry. I'm not saying J.J. Nelson's a one-trick pony or anything like that. Yeah, like you said, they use him all over the field. But, part of his upside is that, 54-yard touchdown catch that he can have, every week. And Rod Marinelli and the Cowboys have been that way for years. They don't like to give up deep balls. Yes, they played the Giants, and the Giants have looked terrible. But the Broncos, most of their stuff was underneath as well. Simeon had ridiculous amount of yards.
Well, they didn't really have to, though. Game script depended that they didn't really have to push the ball down the field. I mean, C.J. Anderson ran all over them, and so they didn't. I mean, they got out such a big lead, they didn't need to do that anymore. So, like I said, I feel like some of that's a little skewed versus what we've seen so far. So I don't think we know for sure, definitively, how good they are, deep down the field. So
that's true, and that's why it's a hot take. We don't know yet. This week should tell us a lot.
Indeed it should. All right, so here's a question about the Green Bay Packers. Randall Cobb is doubtful. If he does not play, are you guys leaning Geronimo Allison, Devontae Adams? Now, the likelihood is that Devontae Adams isn't available. But if Geronimo Allison is this a guy you're looking to pick up, or is this kind of like, nah?
No, I wouldn't pick him up. I just think there's better. I think there's better. Jordy Nelson's still playing. Martellus Bennett's still going to be out there. I think he's the 4th or 5th option at best, with both Ty Montgomery, as well. So I wouldn't play Geronimo Allison.
Well, yeah, and they didn't use him in sort of the role that Randall Cobb was doing. They used him Sunday night when Jordy Nelson went out, and sort of in that one kind of role. And yeah, you're picking up Ricardo Lewis, so you're not gonna have room for you're not gonna have room for John Miles.
I'm being serious about Ricardo Lewis. I really like Ricardo Lewis. I think things really stack up well for Ricardo Lewis this week. If people are desperate for a wide receiver, I do like Ricardo Lewis. The Colts cannot stop they've given up 36% of their play. They've given up 36% of the passes that they've given up this year went for 20 yards or more. Ricardo Lewis, big physical speed wide receiver. I think he fills in. I think he plays the Corey Coleman role. I think he's going to be the guy who takes the top off the defense. And I love Ricardo Lewis this week. When I say that, it's not in tongue-in-cheek. I love Ricardo Lewis. I have him everywhere. I think this is a big week. Everybody's all aboard Rashard Higgins bandwagon. And at this point, I think that Ricardo Lewis, I like him more just because I feel like he has maybe a bigger ceiling, because I do think that he could easily catch an 80-yard touchdown this week from DeShone Kizer. So I like Ricardo Lewis a lot. So like I said, I'm playing him everywhere. And if you're not playing Ricardo Lewis, at the very least, I would look to at least stash him as a long-term pickup.
Yeah, I gotta agree. As fun as it is to joke about Ricardo Lewis, I think he's got tremendous ceiling this week against the Colts. I think maybe in a PPR you lean towards Higgins week to week, like moving forward. But if you're starting a wide receiver on the Browns, it's not going to be because of their floor. So you're going to want, like Travis Benjamin was 2 years ago, where he would just have these crazy weeks where he just went off. Even on a terrible Browns team. So, yeah, I agree with everything Kev said.
Got jokes coming from the chat. Andrew says, say Ricardo Lewis one more time.
Ricardo Lewis.
It's Ricardo Lewis week. Welcome.
Oh, man. We do have some more questions coming in. Sports for Life has a question for us, whether or not he should start Mark Ingram or American Abdullah. I'm sure he means Amir, right?
Speaking autocorrect.
Amir Abdullah.
Damn you, autocorrect. Amir Abdullah, I hear two. Can I hear two more?
Yeah, Abdullah. You can't trust anything in the Saints backfield. Like, you can start some players, but don't count on them.
I mean, the Saints are just absolutely stupid. Mark Ingram is the best back they have, and they just continue to try to mess around with it. But Ricardo, see there, I even said Ricardo Lewis again.
Ricardo Lewis.
Too much Ricardo on the brain. Too much Ricardo.
But Mark Ingram has looked like their best back so far. And he has surprisingly still, especially in PPR format, still gets targets and still gets work, in the pass catching. So he is, I think, at least somewhat usable. But I would lean towards Amir Abdullah this week.
I'd have to agree. Maybe one day the Saints will wake up and just start Mark Ingram and stick with Mark Ingram. We've been saying that for years.
Could we be giving Sean Payton too much hate? Last year was a relatively healthy season for Mark Ingram when they spelled him with Tim Hightower the whole dang time. Could that be what Payton's thinking? Besides just Payton not understanding what players are good on his team and what players are not as good.
When it comes to Mark Ingram, we can never, ever, ever, ever give too much heat to Sean Payton.
Agreed.
That may be the most talked about topic of our off-season podcast too, is what's going to happen with Mark Ingram this year.
Yes, trust me. Yes, I heard all of them.
I know. And Ryan, typical Ryan move, hitched his bandwagon to Mark Ingram, and Ryan was wrong again, like usual, per usual with Ryan.
But we had no bandwagoners on the Adrian Peterson train this year, though, so at least there was that.
That never should have happened. Nobody should have ever been on the Adrian Peterson bandwagon.
Yeah.
So I threw up our next question on the YouTube channel if you guys have it open, because there's a lot of options here. And that comes from Javik, who says, should I start Jordan Howard, Terrell Pryor, Deshaun Jackson, Mark Ingram, or Tariq Cohen in the flex?
Wow.
Terrell Pryor.
Yeah.
Jordan Howard is an automatic bench
Pryor.
until further notice.
Pryor.
In no circumstance do you play Jordan Howard.
Yes, exactly.
Who and what now? Did I hear Pryor? Pryor going?
Yes.
Pryor.
Even though I love Deshaun Jackson this week, I think he is at a fantastic spot going up against Trey Waynes, who can't stop anybody.
Yeah.
Xavier Rhodes likely to be locked down on Mike Evans most of the day. So I think Deshaun Jackson is in a he's in the nut spot this week. I love Deshaun Jackson as well.
Man, if this were a podcast,
as much as Ricardo Lewis.
Yeah, if this were a podcast, that'd be a great promotional material. He's in the nut spot.
DFS people. Well, that's all. Something. There seems to be a lot of sexual innuendo when it comes to DFS. You know, naked cam or naked. You know, playing a guy naked, and you know.
Yeah, it often throws me off.
I'm not getting behind the. What did you say? The nuts.
The nut spot.
The nuts. What did you say?
Have you ever listened to a DFS podcast? That's what it is. It's the nut spot. That's if the guy's the best
nut
player on the board. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Hashtag the nut spot.
The nut spot. Listen, you DFS guys are making up these terms at this point, right? It's new enough where you could change it. I don't think anybody wants to. It's too fun to say. So are we on board as a whole Pryor, or we have other differing opinions here?
Nope. I'm still with Pryor.
We're all walking the same line.
Kev said he did like Deshaun Jackson a little bit. And I do too. Trey Waynes is fast, and that's about it. But yeah, Pryor.
Pryor. Okay, start the Terrell Pryor train there. Javik, you are good to go with that one. TN, welcome back, buddy. How you doing? He asked if he should start Matt Stafford against Atlanta or Phillip Rivers against Kansas City.
That's not even a question.
All right.
Matt Stafford.
Oh, was it Stafford?
Yeah, it was Stafford.
Phillip Rivers has not been a QB1 against the Chiefs since 2013. 2013 was the last time Phillip Rivers put up QB1 numbers
against the Chiefs.
Yes.
Okay.
That's true, and I lean Stafford as well. But also, when's the last time the Chiefs secondary has looked like this?
The Chiefs secondary has not been good for a while. I don't know. This isn't anything new with the Chiefs. They've always had a problem at their nickel and their spot opposite Marcus Peters. So this isn't something new for them. But the Chiefs they tend to give up yards, from the 20 to the 20 and then lock down inside the red zone. That's been their MO ever since Sutton has been the Chiefs defensive coordinator. So. As much as I like Keenan Allen and Tyrell Williams this week, I will not be having any Phillip Rivers.
I really like Stafford this week. He's one of my top choices at quarterback.
Yes. 100% agree.
Any opposing views? Going once.
No, Stafford.
No opposing views. I saw the Mike Stepney shake of the head no, so that's it. That's the end of it.
Oh, great.
What about Andy Dalton this week? What about Andy Dalton this week?
What about Andy Dalton? Going against the Packers.
I like Andy Dalton this week.
I don't like Andy Dalton any week. That's awful.
The change in offensive coordinators from Zampese to Bill Lazor, I think, is going to significantly help their passing attack. And I don't expect the Bengals whatsoever to win this game, but I do think that they're going to be playing from behind, which creates a positive game script for Andy Dalton and AJ Green. I think they both are in fantastic spots. And I think this is a bounce back week for Andy Dalton and that offense. I actually also really like Joe Mixon as well this week. I think they finally, will get things right and actually feed Joe Mixon as they should. So, but I think Andy Dalton is actually in for a bounce back week this week and somebody who people should be looking at to play.
I did not realize Bill Lazor was taking over the offensive coordinator role there. I believe he was the guy in Philadelphia when Nick Foles had that monster season. Then he came down to Miami, did some good things with us when we had Lamar Miller and Ryan Tannehill's first few years. I like Bill Lazor a lot. I still not sure that I like Andy Dalton. It'll be a wait-and-see approach for me. He has put up really good statistical weeks, especially in fantasy, over the past few years. He's been very hot and cold type of quarterback, a very frustrating quarterback to own. I'd probably play wait and see, but I could see where you're coming from with the change to Bill Lazor there.
Yeah, and I think some of it, too, people are down on, if you look at who the Bengals have played through, the first 2 weeks of the season were, two of the top defenses in the league. And then we all know you never play Andy Dalton on primetime spots. They typically fail all the time. So last week against the Texans everybody should have saw that coming. It's what they do every single week, every time they're on primetime. And not to mention the Texans defense is one of the best in the league. And then the week before they played the Ravens, who also have one of the best defenses in the league. So I think people are extremely down on Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's played terrible. I'm not saying that he hasn't, but I think that this week that this is a great matchup for the Bengals. At least their passing attack. The Packers secondary is awful. I think all of their corners last year were one of the lowest ranked among PFF. So I think, and not to mention that the Packers already have injuries among their defense. Mike Daniels isn't playing, so I think that's going to be a problem as well. So I like Andy Dalton this week, where a lot of people won't be playing him whatsoever.
I think if you're in a contrarian, like DFS kind of spot, you're looking for some tournament stuff, I could maybe take a flyer on Andy Dalton in a lineup. But in redraft, dynasty, I'm not starting any Bengals unless their name's AJ Green until further notice. I know, like Kev said, Bill Lazor's coming in, should help the offense, but I don't think a week is enough time to turn that around. I think you hold your Bengals, on your bench and wait to see what that offense does. Seattle, with a slightly worse offensive line than Cincinnati has, I think, put up 9 points, and Russell Wilson was harassed all day long in Lambeau. I don't think the Bengals can do much this week. I think they turn it around by the end of the season, or maybe by the middle of the season. They have a bye coming up, but yeah, I can't start. There's a couple leagues I'm in where there's like 5 starting quarterbacks on waivers, and that's it. And so maybe in leagues like that where you're deciding between Andy Dalton and Josh McCown, you can go Andy Dalton. But
I think it depends on. So, for example, if you're like, let's say you played too many, you've had some of the guys that have already played so far in these 2 games, and you're looking to be down significantly, and you had a guy like Russell Wilson, and I would pick up Andy Dalton and start Andy Dalton over Russell Wilson this week. The Seahawks won. Their offense has looked just anemic. They looked terrible last week against the 49ers, and the 49ers just allowed the Rams make them look like they were the greatest show on turf, and Kurt Warner was back last week. So, again, it's hard to just one for one say that. So, like I said, I think Andy Dalton is an interesting play, and I think he deserves some consideration for sure.
All right. We have some questions rolling in here on YouTube, guys. So let's get over to those. I put one up on the YouTube channel already. That comes from our boy TN. He says, in a half-point PPR, should he start Jordan Howard, Rob Kelly, Duke Johnson, or Matt Forte?
Well, Rob Kelly's probably
that has to be the worst.
Oof. Some awful choices. Good.
that has to be the worst. Like, wow, that's all bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is Samaje Perine available? I don't know. Maybe I'd pick him up.
Those
maybe
4,
Chris Johnson,
Duke Johnson, but I don't feel good about any of them.
I feel okay about Forte this week. The Jets he's been significantly out-snapping and out-touching Bilal Powell so far. I don't expect the Dolphins to, blow the Jets out. I expect them to win, but not blow the Jets out. I think there's a floor with touches with Forte that you like. I don't expect the Browns to need to use Duke Johnson much. I think they can dominate the Colts pretty easily with their line. So I'm not sure I like Duke Johnson. We already talked about not playing Jordan Howard, and then Rob Kelly's probably not going to play tonight.
Yeah, I say I don't feel too bad about Duke Johnson. I think he's involved in the offense. Matt Forte, I guess he could be a decent play, but Dolphins front seven's a little better than that, I think, except against the tight end, right? I'm not defending against that, but I don't know. I think you guys have a good point if you could pick somebody else up, but then it comes to a question, who does he drop? You know, I guess you could drop one of these guys.
You can drop Kelly and add and start Ricardo Lewis. That's what you got to do. You can play him in the running back, right?
Yeah, I think you can play him everywhere.
He should be running back eligible. He can do everything.
I think I would, if Chris Johnson from the Cardinals was available, I think I don't know. That's just so bad.
Yeah.
It would be Duke Johnson. I don't want anything to do with Forte, so it would be Duke Johnson for me. We've seen them kind of put him all over the field, use him as a wide receiver in the slot, use him as a running back. So I think his usage. I think he's a better play. I think he's the best play of the land of misfit toys. I think he ends up being the one who wins.
Wow.
Whoever you go with, you can just stick a shrug emoji right next to their name after you pick them. But that's
I like Duke as well. We have other questions. Everybody agree on Duke here? Well, we have one for Matt Forte there, but you got Kai's argument. So if you agree with him, feel free to go with Forte. I think Kevin and I are on the Duke Johnson train.
Me too.
Raise the crowd. We're good. TN goes, I know, I own Misfit Toys.
Yeah, we can be on the caboose of the Duke Johnson train, right? We're not like driving the damn train.
No, we're not driving it.
We're not driving the Duke Johnson train.
Yeah, we're last in line. He has similar options here, but a little bit better for his standard league. Rob Kelly, Sterling Shepard, or Theo Riddick. He needs one.
Riddick.
It's Riddick, yeah. Definitely Riddick. So how about Tyler Lockett or Devontae Parker in a PPR league?
Devontae Parker.
Parker for sure.
Parker across the board. Good job, guys. How about Demaryius Thomas or Doug Baldwin in a PPR league?
Demaryius Thomas.
ET.
Who do you have on your team that you're deciding between Demaryius Thomas and Doug Baldwin? That's a nice team. You don't need our help. You don't need our help with that.
He's been listening to TFA forever, I guess, because he's stacked his roster with our favorites.
There could be a dynasty team that's just stacked from years and years, I guess. Yeah, I think you got to lean better offensive line, better matchup potentially, and go Demaryius Thomas.
Just an offense that's playing.
I'm Baldwin. I'll go against the grain. Baldwin.
You're going Baldwin. Well, explain yourself, Jen. Why you like Baldwin this week?
I think he gets the targets. I think this is a week that they try and turn it around. Tennessee defensively. I mean, if Alan Hearns can get, a decent amount of points, I think Doug Baldwin, with the skill set, can do it. They just have to give Russell Wilson the time. Clearly, if they can't get the running game going and the offensive line doesn't give them any time, then no wide receiver is going to do that well. But if you're going to give me that choice against two relatively tough matchups with Sanders also getting a lot of targets with Denver, and you're going to rely on Trevor Siemian to carry two fantasy wide receivers today, nope. I'm just not there with you, so I'm going Baldwin.
I think it's close, but I'll say this, that Alan Hearns, his numbers last week all came in garbage time whenever they were down, which is typical Alan Hearns style, where he just packs it in during garbage time. So that's when he did all of his damage, was during garbage time. It wasn't during the game actually mattered. So
he did have another big week this week.
Seattle's going to be up and doing any better, though? I mean,
I think it's going to be very close.
Himself in the same situation, right?
No, I don't see the Seahawks getting the doors blown off them at all.
Just possibly being down is what I was saying, not getting the doors blown off.
Yeah, I think their offense has just been – it's leaving a lot to be desired compared to Denver's offense, who's been surprisingly great at this point. So, I mean, it's hard.
It's very close. It's very, very close.
weeks,
And
yeah.
I think that you're splitting hairs between which one you want to go with. But because to Jen's point, I see why, especially he's the number one option in the offense, whereas there's really nobody else for him to challenge him for targets. So I think it could go either way.
No touchdown for DT yet either. So, I mean, that's something. And they haven't Buffalo has yet to give up a receiving touchdown to any wide receiver. I know, right? Jets and Carolina.
Noted.
Jets and Carolina.
Doomfist says, should I start Jonathan Stewart at the flex or wait to see if JJ Nelson plays tomorrow?
JJ Nelson.
Jonathan Stewart
Brown first, then see if JJ Nelson.
Yeah, that's the one thing you have to figure out. If Jerome Brown's available, then go JJ Nelson.
Yeah, exactly.
But make sure you cut whoever
Stewart's
you're
still
going to cut
playing
tonight.
the Saints, right?
Yes, he is.
Okay, then yeah, Stewart. Yeah.
I like Stewart too. I think we're a little down on this guy. He's still the starter. I know CMC leaves a lot more excitement, and he's getting more and more involved each week. But against the Saints, I could easily see Stewart scoring a touchdown, maybe more. And I don't like Carson Palmer at all. I mean, he's looked awful. Even though JJ still had a great week last week, the Carson play has been troubling for me.
I'm not that high on Jonathan Stewart. I don't care that they're playing the Saints. The Saints, you attack the Saints through the air, especially with Marshawn Lattimore out with a concussion. Jonathan Stewart's not going to be involved in the passing game. CMC is the play. So I don't think Jonathan Stewart is in a fantastic spot. Could he find a touchdown? Sure. But he's not this great play. I think he's a very borderline flex play at best in a 12-team league.
Well, see, I'd say the same thing about Jerron Brown, though. I mean, this is,
what? You mean JJ Nelson?
or yeah, but either way. I mean, you're hoping for a touchdown out of these guys. If I have a really good chance of getting a touchdown out of Stewart, and there's a decent chance of getting a touchdown out of Nelson and Brown. I'm not saying there isn't, but Nelson's hurt, may not play. If you're like, oh man, I could have started Jonathan Stewart, now I have to start Jerron Brown. I don't know that I'm taking a chance. I'd probably go with the Stewart play.
Jerron Brown got 11 targets last week. With JJ Nelson on the field. So I think you do feel pretty good about that. If that happens.
Yeah. And Kevin was right that the passing back was who has been successful versus New Orleans. So you have to kind of lean towards CMC in this particular matchup. But I mean, Gillislee did have the touchdown when New England played. So yeah, you're banking on Stewart is going to get the ball within the 5-yard line.
Yeah, you're banking on the goal line carries for sure.
Yeah. Get that touchdown. But if you're leaning one way, I'm sure there's better options than Stewart might give you today.
Mike, can you agree with them with go with the wide receiver, the Cardinals wide receiver at this point?
Yes, I would.
All right, so you got 3 for the Cardinals wide receiver, JJ Nelson or Jerron Brown, whoever ends up playing. You got 2 for Stewart. Hopefully our arguments helped you out here. Doomfist, thank you so much for joining us today, man. If you guys have more questions, we got 7 more minutes, so get your questions in while you can. Use hashtag AskTFA on Twitter or go ahead and put your question right in the YouTube chat. Doomfist says thank you. You're very welcome, buddy.
If you guys want.
Sure, go ahead. Okay.
At tight end this week, Eric Ebron or Julius Thomas?
Is that even? Or is this? Okay, it's Eric Ebron.
Yes, Ebron.
Yeah, Thomas had a lot more involvement than I expected. I will give you that. But I'm still not ready to start him ahead of Ebron at this point. I think Ebron is getting more and more looks in Detroit. They're playing the Falcons. I think he's the play this week.
Yeah, the Falcons have been terrible against tight ends. They've given up top 5 receiving yards and touchdown to the position. So it's Eric Ebron.
Tell you, I was surprised to see Thomas get as many targets as he did. I know it wasn't like a ton. It wasn't mind blowing. Like, oh, he's going to be a tight end 1. But given all the other options there, I was surprised to see he got what he got.
Well, I think it's close just because I know the Jets are terrible everywhere, but they've been terrible against the tight end as well. So that was my matchup was more my concern. I know Martellus Bennett did well against the Falcons last week, but most of that was in garbage time. He went, I think, the whole first half with either having one or no catches. I don't remember quite, but okay. So you guys
I can see how it's close, Kai. I don't disagree with you, but I think talent-wise and involvement-wise, you got to lean Ebron at this point. Send it back over. Okay, TN has another one for us. Is Jimmy Graham droppable? He's given me 0.9 points in 2 weeks. He's not expected to play this week, so it'll be 0.9 points in 3 weeks. I feel your pain, TN. I have him in the SFB 7, actually. That doesn't mean I'm going to drop him, though.
Yeah,
you have to know what the options are. I feel like that question is kind of incomplete and leaves us a little handcuffed as to how to answer. And we have to know who's available for you. I'm sure Graham is frustrating. It could not turn around, but without knowing, I wouldn't drop him right away.
You're right, Jen. His situation inevitably means you have to hold 2 tight ends and maybe a 16-spot redraft league, which is extremely hard, right? Especially if you only have 5-6 bench spots, it's going to be tough to hold 2 tight ends. I'm going to give him a couple more weeks. I like to do 4-week segments, a quarter of the year. If another week passes by, maybe I look to move him for some peanuts, but at least he can get something. He's playing Kobe Fleener right now, by the way.
I think just based on all the injuries we had last week at the tight end position, I think you have to hold him. I don't think there's, if you have to start Kobe Fleener, I don't think there's much out there. I would hold Graham for at least, like Anthony said, a couple more weeks.
Yeah. I'm holding him as
I'm trying to see who Graham plays next week. They play the Colts.
Listen, I was so hopeful.
So after this week, he might have a little bit more, success.
Yeah, hopefully.
So hold on one more week, and then they're playing Colts. But yeah,
I was so hopeful with that strategy in SFB too, because I went with the 2 quarterbacks early with Rodgers and Ryan, and I got the 3 tight ends early with Kelsey and Graham, and then Fleener. And Fleener and Kelsey have been fantastic for me, but Jimmy Graham, where you at, bro?
Yeah, I don't know, Anthony. In the Scott Fish Bowl this year, are you allowed to drop a tight end or no?
Yeah, you can. I think so.
Okay.
I wouldn't. I have other people I could drop.
So ridiculously valuable in Scott Fish. I didn't know if you could drop one.
Well, Scott Fish just doesn't have trades. You can still make regular waiver transactions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You just have to be ready for the waiver run at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, it's a late waiver run. It's kind of brutal, actually. But Scott Fish does a great job of making sure to keep you on your toes. I mean, that's a who's who of fantasy football competition there in that Scott Fish Bowl. Let me tell you.
No kidding. No kidding.
I'm 2-0 by the way. 2-0. I'm feeling great.
You're lucky you. Unfortunately, 0-2.
Listen, last year I was 2-7. I came back with 5 straight wins, and then I lost my last 2 to miss the playoffs. I was like, rough. This year though, first downs count, and their bonuses for first downs count twice for tight ends. So it's a very interesting point strategy. That's why I went so tight end heavy. We only have 2 minutes left, guys. I don't see any more questions coming in. Do we have any other last-minute tidbits you want to hand out to our listeners before we go ahead and sign off?
Play all the Ricardo Lewis this week.
Knew that one was coming.
Or Brandon Coleman. Lewis, Brandon Coleman as well. Brandon Coleman deserves some consideration.
Oh, there was Brandon Coleman.
There he is. The Kev Steele favorite.
Played well last week. 80 yards and a touchdown. Still no Willie Snead in the offense.
Yeah.
So I think he's in a nice spot as well to at least see some red zone targets there. So
I'm very happy to have picked up Snead from somebody who dropped him, by the way. And you should do the same if somebody drops Snead, by the way.
Yeah, he's coming back next week.
Yep, next week.
So you can drop Brandon Coleman after that.
Austin Safarian Jenkins is back this week, which Kai mentioned at the beginning of the show. So
out of shape.
No, I don't think so. He already reports out that he's come back out of shape. I don't know. I like ASJ, but it's not this week.
Let the hype begin. TN says, congrats to TFA for another great game day show. Thank you so much, TN, for joining us. And yes, Jacksonville did get the blowout over in London. 44-7 was the final score of that game. Buck Allen was a huge disappointment. Jeremy Maclin was a huge disappointment. Alex Collins, surprisingly, was actually pretty decent for Baltimore. So there you go. That'll do it for today's game day show. Thank you so much to Michael Stepney and Kai. What the hell's your last name, Kai? I'm so blanking on this.
Brewer. It's okay. The most
Here's because-
forgetting, boring last name in the history of last names.
I didn't hear you. What'd you say? What is it?
That's because you have the first name.
You have an awesome first name.
You
so
gotta balance it out. Interesting
Yeah.
first name, super boring last name.
I'm just gonna keep you to Kai. Like you're like Cher. You only have one name. So thank you so much.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you so much to
That's
Kai.
better, actually. I like it.
And to Jen Smith and to Kevin Steele. We had so much fun today, guys. This was actually a blast. Just joking around with you guys, having some fun before the NFL games begin. Actually, during an NFL game, right? It's London Sunday.
Yep.
That's how it goes.
That was a real game?
I think so.
I think only one team showed up, so I don't know if it counts.
That's more like a Thursday night game.
For sure. Don't forget that the TFA Podcast does 2 shows a week now. So on Tuesday morning, you will get our waiver wire TFA Transaction Tuesday show to give you all the top waiver wire picks that you should be considering for your team. Also, we have TFA's regular podcast each and every Thursday morning. Make sure to check that out as well. There is the DFS DGen Nation podcast every Friday, and also the Dynasty Life podcast if Dynasty is more your thing, which I believe also comes out on Friday. So we have plenty of podcast content for you. And be on the lookout for some more video content, too. We just launched a Week 3 injury report video from our boy Matt Bentz, which was a pretty good thrown together piece there. So go ahead on over to our channel and check out Matthew Bentz's Week 3 injury report status on Rob Kelly. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We had so much fun, and we will see you next week on the Fantasy Authority Game Day Show.
Ricardo Smash Week.